Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Sari and you are watching my knitting podcast videos. And in today's episode I'm going to be showing you my newest design, the Sunset Camisole, which you can see over here. And I just released the pattern and I decided to make this little video to show you more about how the design looks like. I will soon change into it and show you more how it looks like when I'm wearing it, and also talk a bit about the construction, but you can see it here. And like I said, it's called the Sunset Camisole. I decided to pick that name because it makes me think of like all those are like really hot summer evenings when you're by the sea and dancing the night away and the sun is setting over the sea and you're like at this really nice beach club and music is playing and it's still hot. So this is what I had in my mind when I was designing this pattern, and also because the color, the burnt orange color, also reminds me of the color of the setting sun. So that's the little story behind the name. I wanted to make something that is super simple, something that you can style with pretty much everything you have in your wardrobe. So this goes really nicely with a pair of linen pants or jeans. It goes under a blazer really nicely. You could wear it with a dress for a party. So for example like a flowy skirt and then some high heels, a little clutch. It would be perfect for even, for example, for a summer wedding, like not so formal wedding. Or you could wear it to the office with some a bit dressier pants, maybe ballet flats, and this, like I said, you could wear a blazer over it. I think it would also look really cute with like skinny jeans, ballet flats, and with your hair tied back, so for like a coffee date, for running errands, so pretty much everything. So that's kind of like my design idea always, that I want the pieces that I knit and design to be something that you can actually wear day to day, and you can dress them up or down depending on what you're doing that day. So yeah, that's kind of like the story behind the Sunset Camisole. And design itself, it's super simple, so it's just like a really basic, you can actually see it better on the back. So this is how it looks like without the frill. So if the frill is not your thing, you can always leave that out and just make the camisole. So it's really simple, slightly A-line shape, so there are some increases on the sides, so you get that A-line shape, which I think is really nice for a summer top. So it's snug around the bust, so it doesn't start dragging down, but it's still like really nice and airy, and you can move in it. So that's why I decided to add some increases to both sides. And then of course there's the main element, the frill on the front, and this is how it looks like. So I will just go and change into it, and then I will show you how it looks like when I'm wearing it. So here you can see how it looks like on me. I'm wearing it with a skirt at the moment. So very summery, very easygoing. And here you can see the I-cord straps on both shoulders. You start at the top of a triangle, so casting on stitches over here, and then start increasing for each of these triangles. So you knit 4 identical triangles at first and then join them around in the bust. So after that the piece is knitted in the round. And lastly the hem is knitted. So the hem is folded double, as you can see over here, and there's a purled round at the bottom of the hem, which makes the sides to fold more easily, so it folds along the purled line. And then we make a couple of centimeters more of just knitting before binding of all stitches, and then the bind of edge is sewed onto the back of the work loosely. So this makes the edge stay straight. So if that was just like a raw stockinette stitch hem without the fold, it would start rolling at some point, so it would start rolling upwards, and we don't want that. So this will stabilize the edge and making it slightly thicker at the bottom than at the main body, which also makes it drape really nicely. So it weights it down so that it stays in place. And you could also just like tuck the end, the hem in for a shorter look. You could go all the way around on both sides and just leave the frill on top and get a slightly different look if you would want to do like that. Of course, tuck in also the back. So this is another option of wearing it. I really like always tucking in the ends of my knits, so that's probably how I would style it. And then we will start picking stitches along the side of one of the triangles and then work downwards, picking up stitches from the body all the way to the side. And then there are some increases to make it like the frill, and that's it. So it's super simple, very beginner friendly, and I will show you in this video how to do all the steps, so it will make it even easier to replicate. So let's talk a bit about what you will need to have all the notions, the yarn, the needles and so on before you start knitting your own Sunset Camisole. So you can buy the pattern for the Sunset Camisole in my Ravelry store. I will link it below this video, so just go below the video, you see the description that I have written there, and there you can find the Ravelry link for buying the pattern. And when you choose the size that you're going to make, I recommend that you measure your bust circumference and then choose the size that gets you the closest to the finished measurement for the bust of the top. So the top is intended to be worn with 0 ease. So that means that the bust circumference is the same as the circumference of the finished bust of this camisole. If you are between sizes, I recommend you size down. So pick a smaller size rather than the larger size. Of course, if you want a slightly looser top, then go for the larger size, but I think it will look best if it's slightly snug around the bust, and then because of the A-line shaping on the sides, it will have some flare. So choose the size that is closest to your own bust circumference. So that's the right size for you. And below that in the pattern you can see the yarn requirements. You can also see those on the Ravelry page, so you can purchase your yarn before you buy the pattern, or see if you already have some suitable yarn in your stash. And for this one I used the Rerum Natura sport weight linen yarn. It's called Antigone, and this is the Mandarin colorway. So this is the exact same colorway that I used for my top, and like I said, it's 100% linen, and it has 260 meters per 100 grams. And I have a couple of different colorways here that I can show you. So this one is the linen colorway, so it's really like a beautiful natural linen colored yarn. And this is the Macaron colorway, so it's a really beautiful pale pink. It's really nice blush pink, so you can see them together. Looks like this. So this is the one that I used, and I also used the same yarn for my Salutorget bag. So this is the colorway Mordore, so it's like this yellowish ochre color, golden sandy, really beautiful. So I think this would also make a really nice sunset camisole if you want to use that. But if you don't have access to this yarn or you want to use something else, then I recommend you choose a sport weight yarn. So sport weight yarn is slightly thicker than a fingering weight yarn, but not quite as thick as DK. So it's something between fingering weight and DK weight. So that's what you are looking for. You can of course always use a combination of yarns, so maybe like 2 strands of very light fingering weight yarn, such as Knitting for Olives pure silk. I think these could be combined for the right thickness as well. Or another option would be to combine Sandnes Garn Tynn linen. This is also linen yarn. This is a combination of 53% cotton, 33% of viscose and 14% of linen, and this one has 220 meters per 50 grams. So this was 260 meters for 100 gram, and this was 220 meters for 50 grams, so it's almost half the weight. So I think combining 2 of these, holding these 2 together, would make a good match for this one. Another option would be Mandarin Petit from Sandnes Garn, which is 100% cotton yarn. So this one has 180 meters per 50 grams. So I think this could also work nicely for it. Another option that you could use is Crea Deluxe, and this is the organic wool number 1, and this one has 150 grams per 150 meters per 50 grams, and this is really nice, really soft yarn. However, I think it might affect the drape. I chose a linen for this because of the drape and because it's kind of hard, so I think it will make the frill drape really nicely and hold in place. So if you use very soft yarn, it might affect the way the frill sets or how the camisole itself looks like, so be mindful of that. The yarn that I'm going to use today for my second sunset camisole is this one. So this is Susura from Malabrico Yarns, and this is DK sport weight yarn. It has 297 meters per 100 grams, and it has 50% mulberry silk, 25% merino and 25% linen. So it's a really beautiful yarn. The silk gives it a beautiful sheen, and the linen makes it slightly rustic, so it's super beautiful. This is actually the leftover from my Kuutar tea, so I'm using leftovers for this one. So that's what I'm choosing. And I needed Sunset Camisole on 3mm needles. So what you will need is circular needles that are 3mm or US 2.5, and also for the straps you might want to use the 2 double-pointed needles, so it's easier to make an I-cord using these. And you could actually go with just one long circular needle, so for the smaller sizes you can go with 80 centimeter or 32 inches long cable, and for the larger sizes choose 100 centimeter long cable or 40 inches. So you only need this, but I think it will be easier to make the triangles on a smaller circular needle. So this has a 40 centimeter cable, so 16 inches long cable. So this is for knitting the triangles, so you don't have to fuss about the long cable. You will also need a bit of waste yarn or a cable cord for putting the stitches on hold while we work on the other triangles. And then you will need a couple of stitch markers. I like using the locking stitch markers, so these. So that's pretty much everything that you will need. You also need, of course, a tapestry needle for weaving in the ends and sewing the bottom hem. And lastly, blocking tools, but those are optional, so you can also just make the camisole wet and just leave it flat to dry. And I think we're now ready to start knitting, so let's do this. I will show you how to start the first triangle. I will show you 2 different ways of making the provisional cast on, and then we are ready to go. So the top is started by knitting 4 identical triangles, and then we join them together at the underarm, and we start knitting here at the top of one triangle with a provisional cast on. So later on we can just pick the stitches back up on needles and start working the I-cord straps, so there won't be any seams over here. It looks really nice and neat. So this is the thing that we will make first, and I will show you 2 different ways of making the provisional cast on. So the first option is to use a crochet hook to make a little chain. So I will start by making a slip knot onto the crochet hook, and then just chain a couple of basic chain stitches. So I usually make a couple of more chains than is needed for the pattern. So here we want to cast on 4 stitches, so that's why I will make a couple of more than 4. Let's make 1 more, and then we can cut the yarn. So this is a waste yarn that I'm using, not the actual yarn that I want to use. So here's the little crochet chain that I just made. You can see it over here, and here are the crochet chain stitches. And what I will do, I will take the main yarn that I'm going to use, so the yarn that I'm going to actually knit the camisole width. Those to the side. And then just start picking stitches from the chain stitches in the cast on, crochet cast on. So here I have 2 on my needles and then just the last one. So here's my crochet provisional cast on, and just start working with these stitches. Lastly, when we have made the triangles, then just undo this crochet from the beginning, and then you have 4 live stitches that you can pick up. But I will show you another way that I usually use, and it's the knitting magazine method. And for that you don't need a long, just a short piece of waste yarn. So for this I actually only need a really short amount, but if you're using this for a hat or a sweater, then pick a slightly longer piece than the cast on edge. So if you're using it for your hat, then take a piece of waste yarn that is slightly longer than the brim of the hat, the circumference of the hat. And we will start with the main yarn. So you need to use a long tail, so just enough that you can then weave it in. We are not going to use the tail at all. And I'm going to make a slip knot on my main needles over here. And I will bring the waste yarn behind the main yarn, so it's parallel to the yarn that I'm using, and just leave a little bit of tail on the other side as well. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap the yarn around my main yarn and then put the main yarn on my needles, and then again use my fingers to wrap the yarn around and on the needle, and one more time just wrap. And for the last one, just bring the yarn over. So here we have our 4 stitches, and I usually put a little knot on the waste yarn so it doesn't start unraveling. And here we have our provisional cast on. I will link the page of the knitting technique below this video, so if you're more comfortable working with words and photos, then you can check out the tutorial from the knitting page as well. And then we are ready to start working. And our first round is from the wrong side, so I will just purl all of these stitches that I have on my needles. And then we will start increasing for the triangle shape. So these are my edge stitches. Then I'm making one new stitch. So I will pick up the yarn from my previous round, so between the stitches, and I'm picking it by going from behind and putting it on the needle, and then just knit it through the back loop. So this is the make one left increase, so you can see that it's leaning to the left, and then just knit the last 2 stitches. So this is our first row, and then turn around for a purl row or a wrong side row, we slip the first stitch with yarn in front, so you go behind the yarn, so the yarn is in front of your right needle, and then into the stitch as if to purl, and just slide the stitch of your needle and bring the yarn back to the middle of the stitches, and then purl until one stitch remains. And the same here, behind the yarn, into the stitch, and bring the yarn back to the front of the stitch. And turn. On the right side, we knit 2 stitches. Then on this side we make a right leaning increase. So now I will pick the yarn behind the two stitches from the front and bring it onto the left needle, and then just knit it through the front loop. It's a bit slippery, so you can see it goes to the right. Then knit until I have 2 stitches left and make a left leaning. So behind the work, bring it on the left needle and then through the back loop. So it's left leaning. And knit 2. Again on the purl side, I will just slip the first one with yarn in front, as we did earlier. And then just purl until I have 1 stitch left. And again, behind the yarn, slip with yarn in front and turn. Again, on the right side, knit the first 2 stitches. Then we had the right leaning increase, so from front to the back. I often twist it so that I have it immediately twisted here on the needle, and then just knit it, so I don't have to try to get into the front loop. So I think it's easier this way. And from on this side was the left leaning increase, and then I usually just immediately knit it. So I twist it at the same time when I lift it. I can show it to you one more time, so I think that's easier. Slip 1 with yarn in front, purl until 1 stitch remains. And slip it with yarn in front. Let's do this one more time. So knit the first 2 stitches, right leaning increase, so I pick the yarn up, twist it and put it on the needle, and then knit until 2 stitches remain, and then from the back onto the needle and knit it. So here you can see how the triangle is already starting to shape. And here we have the top of the triangle. So we will be repeating these 2 rows. So on the right side you always need to make 1 right, knit until 2 stitches remain, then knit 1 left and knit 2. On the wrong side, slip 1 with yarn in front, purl until 1 stitch remains, and then slip the last stitch with yarn in front. And we will keep repeating these 2 rows until the end of the triangle. So check your written pattern on how many stitches you need to have over here for your size, the length of the triangles is different for each size, so make sure you follow the stitch counts for your size. And then at the end you just cut the yarn and you put the stitches on hold on a piece of waste yarn. I will then show you how to do that. So I have now finished my first triangle, and what I will do next is I will cut the yarn. Just remember to leave enough yarn to weave in the yarn end at the end of the knitting. So this is enough for that. And then I will put the stitches on hold, so I can either use a piece of waste yarn, so probably the same, for example the same yarn that I used for the cast on, or just anything you have, and put it on a tapestry needle, and then just slip all the stitches from the needle onto the yarn until the end of the row. Another alternative is to use the knitting stitch cords. So I have one here, and this is basically like a plastic tube. There's a little hole at the end of the tube, and you use it so that you put the end of the tube onto your needle and just push it there so it's tightly fastened, and then just drop everything off the needles onto the cord. So I have everything here on the cord, and just make a little knot at the end so it's here safely. And then I will just start my second triangle. So same thing as earlier. So I start by making the slip knot on the needle, and the same way as I did earlier, make the provisional cast on. So just bring the waste yarn over and put the main yarn on the needle, and again behind the work over the yarn on the needle, and one more. So here we have our 4 stitches, and again make a little knot here at the end. You can also put the yarn end on the knot, it doesn't matter. And the same way I will start first by purling the first row and increasing the same way as I did for the first triangle, and we will be making 4 triangles total. At the end of the 4th triangle, don't cut the yarn. I will show you what to do next. So I have now finished all my 4 triangles. This is the last one, and I still have the yarn attached, so it's still on my needles and I haven't cut the yarn. And this is the first one that I made, and the other 2 are, I put them on the same cord. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to change into a longer needle at the same time as I'm working on this, and just work all the stitches of the first triangle onto the longer needle. But if you were using the longer needle to begin with, you don't have to do this part. So I'm just knitting over all the stitches until the end of the triangle. Just working until the end of the row. Here we go. Until the end, the last stitch. So now we can remove the shorter needles from the work. So here I am at the end of the first triangle, and the next thing I'm going to do is to take the stitches from this one back on my needles. So the second triangle, just undo the knot over here, and I'm going to use the other end to take them on my needles. So make sure that you have your right side of the work facing. So I want the needle to go in like this, so I can start knitting from this end. So I just put the cord, end of the cord, back on the needle and push it there so it gets stuck over there, sticks, and then I can just pull it through. So this is the good thing about the cord, so I don't have to worry about the stitches from dropping. And then I just remove the cord, and I'm ready to work a right side row of the next triangle and just knit all the stitches again all the way until the end of the round or row, the same way as I did for the first triangle. And after that we will be casting on stitches for the underarm, and I will show you two ways to do that. So the first method is the back loop method, which is easier, but it is not as pretty, although you don't really see it because it's on the underarm. But if you were making a longer, for example, front neck, then the cable cast on method that I will also show you is a prettier one. So I'm getting to the end of the triangle. So the next part that I will do is to cast on stitches for the underarm. So there's like this straight part at the underarm, so it creates a bit more space for the underarm. And you can either do that with the back loop method, like I said. Check the written pattern to see how many stitches you have to cast on for your size. So this is the back loop method. So I just make a loop with my finger. So just twist the yarn with my finger and take this loop onto the needle and pull tight. So this is the back loop method. So for my size I will cast on 3 stitches, then add the stitch marker and cast 3 more for a total of 6 stitches for the underarm. But if you want to do the cable cast on method, then turn the work so you have the wrong side facing you and go between these 2 stitches, so the last stitch and the second to last stitch. So I go between, not into the stitch but between the stitch, and I just pick the yarn and put it on the needle. And so again between the stitch that I just created and the last stitch on the needle, and make a loop and put it on the needle. So here I have my first 3 stitches, and I will add the stitch marker to mark the side, and again we'll make 2 more. Try to keep the stitches a bit loose so it's easier to pick the stitches. And after that I just turn the work around again, and here I have my underarm cast on stitches. So then I will add another triangle, do the work. So I want to add them here, and again I want to start working from the right side row, so from this corner. So I will use this end of the cord to drop the stitches back on my needles. And since I have both of them on the same cord, I will just put them all on the needles at the same time. Since they are all identical, it doesn't really matter in which order I make them. So here we have, and just remove the cord, and now I'm ready to work the right side row. So I'm just picking this up, and make sure you still have all your cast on stitches on your needles, and just continue working over the next triangle the same way as we did. So we have 2 triangles on the front and 2 triangles on the back, which are worked back to back, so there's no cast on stitches here at the front or back neck, only at the underarms. So the next 2 triangles are worked again straight without casting on stitches at the back neck or the front neck. So after I finish this triangle, I will just continue on to the next one. And I already had the next triangle on my needle, so I just bring it to my left needle, and again just knit all the stitches. And after that I will again cast on stitches for the second underarm the same way as I did for the first one. So you can again either use the back loop method or the cable cast on method that I showed you. I will do the cable cast on again because I did it for the other side, so I will do it for this side as well. So just working until the end of the row. I have a couple of stitches left of the last triangle, and then I will cast on the stitches for the underarm. And again, remember to check your pattern to see how many stitches you cast on for each size. So I'm turning the work again and going between the first 2 stitches, picking up the working yarn and just bring it onto the needle and the third one. And I'm having another color for this side, so I know which one is my beginning of the round and which is just the second side marker. So the other one was pink, this one is white. Just bring the yarn on the needle. You can also add the stitch marker, especially if you're using locking markers, then it might be easier to add the marker after casting on the stitches, so you don't have to fuss about it here on the needles. And then just one
more. And now I'm ready to join everything in the round. So I have all my triangles now here on my needles. This was the first one that I made. Second one, here's the first underarm and the last 2 triangles. And make sure they are all pointing the same way so nothing has twisted before joining in the round. And then I'm just bringing everything back together. So just make sure everything is pointing the same way. Here you can see it has twisted, so I will just twist it back. Now it's still twisted, gone around twice. So now it's straight over here, and make sure all the other pieces are aligned as well. And then I'm just ready to continue in the round. So just knit everything in the round. Until the piece is about 5 centimeters or 2 inches. And then it's time to make the increases for the A-line shaping. I will show that to you then. I have now worked 5 centimeters or 2 inches since I joined all the pieces together, and I'm here at my beginning of the round marker. And the next thing I will do is start my waist increases. So I will be increasing on each side of the markers, both markers that I placed in the cast on edge at underarm, and I will show you how to do it. So I will first just finish this round until the beginning of the round marker and slip the marker, and after that I will knit one and then make one left leaning increase, just like we did here in the triangles. So I increased 1 stitch, and then I will just knit until I reach the other marker. So until I have 1 stitch left before the next marker. So just knit everything. And the increases will create the A-line shape, making the hem slightly wider than the bust. So each set of increases will increase 4 stitches to the total stitch count. So there will be 2 increases on each side, and that will make 4 increased stitches altogether. So I'll just work until I have 1 stitch left before the next side marker. So now I'm getting closer to the second side marker over here, and just continue until there's 1 stitch remaining. And on this side I will make a right leaning increase. So I pick the yarn from front, twist it and put it on the left needle, then just knit it, knit the last stitch, slip the marker, and the second side the same thing, knit 1 from back, left leaning increase, knit, and then again I will knit until I have 1 more stitch remaining, and I will make the final, make 1 right increase, and then just knit the last stitch. So I'll just quickly work until the end of the row. So here we are at the end of the round, and here's the last stitch of the round, and the same thing here, right leaning increase, knit it and knit the last stitch. Then just continue in the round and make the increases again every 5 centimeters, or as the pattern tells you. So here you can see here's one set of increases, the next one, and again, and just continue making the increases as the pattern tells you. So I have now finished my body, as you can see. It's the same length as the other one. So I'm ready to make the folding round, which was the purled round that makes the hem easier to fold double. It will give a neat edge to the hem. So here I have done all my increases, and I'll just knit to the end of the round. So this is my last round of the hem. Just knit the last few stitches until I reach the beginning of the round marker, and I have actually removed the second marker, so I only have the beginning of the round marker on my needles. I don't need the other one anymore because I'm no longer making any increases on the other side. So just knit the last stitch and then slip the marker, and for this round I will just purl everything. So just purl all the stitches until we reach the end of the round. So after I have finished purling the folding round, so I have just purled all the stitches in the round, and this is the end of the round. So then I just slip the marker and continue knitting again. So this is going to be the inside of the fold. So after the purled round, the part that I'm now making is this knitted fold. So I will continue in for a couple of centimeters and then bind off everything. So just knit all the rounds as you did earlier and then bind off everything. So just continue to knit for about 8 to 10 rounds. So I have enough fabric to fold on the inside. So here I have knitted some couple of centimeters after the folding round. You can see it here, it's the purled round, and if I let this one go, you can see that it starts immediately folding along this line, so that's why we made it. It makes the edge easier to fold in line, and I will just finish this round. I have a few more stitches left. And then we can remove the last marker. We don't need the beginning of the round marker anymore. So I can just remove it. And after that I will just start binding off the stitches. So we'll knit the first 2 stitches and then pull this one over the last knitted stitch and off the needles. And try to do this loosely so your bind off edge isn't too tight. If you have the tendency to bind off stitches too tightly, then you can change the right needle into a larger one. So you can use 3.5 millimeter or even 4 millimeter needle. So that is US size 6 or size 8 needle on your right hand, and that will make it easier to bind off the stitches loosely. And just do this over all the stitches until you reach the last stitch. So I have the last few stitches here left on my needles, and just bind them off like I did at the beginning of the round until I reach the very last stitch, and then I will show you what to do with that. So this is the last one, and then I will just use my right needle to pull the yarn, and then I can actually remove the needles at this point and make sure that I have at least the width of the garment, the whole garment, and then some extra, and then I will just cut the yarn. Here, and I will use this yarn to sew the edge in place. And as you can see, immediately after I cast off the bind off the stitches, it starts to roll. So that's why we do the fold, so I can get rid of the rolling and the edge will stay nice and flat. So this is the raw stockinette stitch edge, and you can see it starts to roll. So even if you would do really aggressive blocking to it, it wouldn't help. It would just get back to that. It might be flat for a little while, but then after some use it would start to roll again, because that's the nature of stockinette stitch. And that's why usually you always do either ribbing or some other edge to your knits. So never a raw stockinette stitch unless you want it to roll, because it's a really nice effect as well. And if you want that, then you can just leave the raw stockinette stitch, but like I said, it will start to roll. Then just fold the edge as it is, and we'll start picking stitches on the purl side from the body, and just pull it through. And this is easiest to do with a piece light flat on a surface. So here's our first stitch, and just gently hold the edge in place and go into the bind off edge and into a stitch from the body and just pull the yarn through. And I don't usually take every second, approximately every second stitch, so it stays quite loose. And here the corresponding stitch from the body and the bind off edge. And I will do this for the whole body, so I will go over the whole piece. So just gently press it in place and try to keep the stitches quite loose, so don't pull the yarn too tight. And if you want, you can check on the other side that it's invisible, so you won't start dragging the stitches from the body too hard. And just do this for the whole edge. Just gently pull the yarn through. And make sure you follow the same line from the body all the time, so that the edge stays straight. The folding line, the purled line, will make this easier for you. So like this. And then just weave in the yarn ends. Make sure you do it on the wrong side of the work. And we can then cut the yarn. And now we have finished the hem. The next thing we will do are the straps, and at this point you have to decide which side of this is the front and which is the back. So these are totally identical. So what I do, I just put a stitch marker here. This is going to be my front, so it's marking that I remember which one is the front and which is the back. That I do both straps the same way, and then I will undo the provisional cast on edge from the first triangle. And this is the reason why I love the knitting method. You can see that I can move the yarn on the stitches, so the stitches are kind of like they are on a piece of waste yarn, so I don't have to undo anything. They're just like on a piece of string, and I can just pick the stitches up. So I should have 4 stitches here. Just make sure you get everything. This is hiding there, and then the last one. And after that I can just pull out the yarn, and I have my 4 initial stitches on my needles. It's a bit tight here at the beginning, but don't worry about that. I'll just move the stitches to the other side of the needle, so I'm ready to start a right side row. And I will work the straps as I-cords. So what I'm going to do, it's actually super tight for some reason. It's usually not this tight. So just pick the first stitch and then knit it. And the second one. Until the last one. And if you are using the double pointed needles, you can just pull the needle back to the other side, or you can do it with these short circular needles as well. Bring the yarn to the back, and then just knit everything again so the yarn is at the back and we are only working on the right side. If you are working with circular needles, it might be easier just to slip everything back. So once I'm at the end of the row, I will just slip everything back to the other side and then just knit them again and slip everything back. Just knit. And this is how you make an I-cord, and we're just going to continue for until what the pattern says. I think it was something like with over 10 centimeters. So I'll just continue with this. And when you're measuring it, remember to tighten it. So measure it from the tight strap, because it's going to grow like this when you're wearing it. So if you are measuring it when it's relaxed, then when you're wearing it and it will grow, it's going to be too long. So take the measurements from tightened strap. And I'll just continue with this, and then I will show you how to attach it to the other side. I have my first strap here, and what I will do next, I will try this on. So this is the marker that I placed here to show the front, but I will put it on so that the front is at the back, because it's easier for me to measure the strap on the front than at the back. So just put the top on as you want it to be, and then I'll just grab the strap. It's somewhere here behind me at the moment. Here it is, and just bring it to the front, and now I can just pinch it together with my fingers, and then just look in the mirror so you can see if you like how the back aligns and the overall fit over here and the underarm and so on. This actually looks really nice as a vest as well, so you could easily wear it over a t-shirt or layering. This is how it's going to look like, and I think the strap is of a really good length, and like I said, remember to stretch it when you take measurements. So I think this is a good length for my strap. I don't want it to be too short or too long either, so either it will start falling off my shoulder or then the underarm will droop too low. So I think this is a really good place. So this is the perfect length, and then I will show you how to attach it. So I'm now ready to attach the strap, and first of all I will cut my working yarn. Just leave a tail long enough to do the Kitchener stitch, crafting together and weaving in, and also have my needle ready over here. And then I will take the matching back triangle, so make sure it's actually the back triangle and not the second front triangle. So here is the front without the cast on edge, and here I have the underarm with the cast on edge. So make sure it really is the back. So I'm going to undo this, make sure the I-cord is aligned, it's straight, and then just take all the stitches from this other side, the provisional cast on, take them on my needles, and just take off the yarn. So now I have both sides of my needles, and then just bring them together. And what I will do, I will go on the front needle through the first stitch with my tapestry needle. I will go as if to purl, so into the stitch as if to purl, and then into this one as if to knit, and pull tight, and then as if to knit, and drop it off the needle, and then go straight into the next one as if to purl, and pull the yarn tight. On this side as if to purl, drop the stitch off the needle, and into this one as if to knit. Again as if to knit, drop the stitch off as if to purl, take the yarn end off there, and on the back side as if to purl, drop the stitch off, and the next one was as if to knit. I have one more set to do, so as if to knit, as if to purl, and on this side as if to purl, and the last one as if to knit. And then for the last ones, this one is just as if to knit, drop it off, and as if to purl, and drop it off. And here I have my first strap ready, and just weave in the yarn ends, just tighten it there, and usually go into the strap a bit, and then back. And just cut the yarn, and then I will do the same thing for the second side. So now remember to start on the same side that was front, so that the seam will be on the back side. So start with this one, pick up the stitches and make the I-cord as long as on the other side, and then graft it together with the stitches from the back triangle. I have now finished both of the straps, and I also took some time to weave in all the yarn ends. So this is how it looks like at the moment. And you could actually wear it like this without the frill as well. So if you want to make a second wand and not make the frill, this looks really nice like this as well. I will now start making the frill and just remove this one. And we'll put it here on the left side. So the left side is the side which will be on the left when you're wearing it, and it looks like the right side here at the moment. And I will locate the last side increases, so they are over here, and I'll just put this marker over here to mark the place. So that is where the frill will end. And I will start the frill here at the top of this triangle and work downwards along the side of the triangle and then make a curved line until this marker. And to make it a bit easier, I'm going to use waste yarn to mark the curve that I will follow. So using my tapestry needle over here, I will start at this front neck and just make these very loose stitches. You don't have to do a knot here, so just mark, kind of like mark the path for your frill. So this will make it easier for you to pick the stitches for the frill. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just like a guideline to mark the way. A few more. And the last one over here. So I want the curve to first follow this line and then be a slightly lower curve at the end. So steeper here and then lower at the end. And then I will take my working needles, and like I said, I will start at this corner. So with my working yarn and my needles, I will start picking up stitches along this corner. So pick up the first from the top of the corner, might be easier to do it this way. Bring the yarn here and just knit the first stitch, and make sure you're leaving enough yarn here for weaving in the end later on. And then just continue along the side, so not the slipped side stitch but the stitch next to it, and I will pick up one stitch per each round. So one stitch for every knitted round. Just put this here so it doesn't make a sound, like that scratching sound when it's moving. against the table. Well, it didn't help. And I'll just continue like this, like picking up one stitch for each knitted round from this edge. Until I reach the base of the triangle. And when I reach the base of the triangle, just take a few more stitches from here. Then I will start to follow the line that I made and pick up at least one stitch for each knitted stitch. So just pick one leg of each of these stitches over here. And just continue this way. You can pick more if you need. So especially in the steeper parts, you might want to sometimes pick a few extra stitches to compensate both the difference between the stitch-wise and row-wise. So just continue picking up the stitches, and I would rather pick more stitches, kind of like too many. Oh, almost dropped everything over here. So rather pick too many stitches than too little. The more the stitches you have, the more frill you will have later on. So just continue like this, picking up stitches from the body along the line that you marked with your waste yarn. And just continue picking up stitches until you reach the marker here at the side. After picking all the stitches from the body, again just remove the waste yarn, just pull it through because I didn't make any knots there, so it was just loose, and remove the marker because I don't need that anymore. And then turn the work. So this is the wrong side of the frill, and I'll just purl everything. So purl all the stitches until the top of the triangle. So this is our first row, kind of like a setup row before we make increases for the frill. Just purl until the end of the row. Turn it around and work from the right side again. And this time we are going to start making the increases, which will make the frill even more flared. So just start by first knitting 2 stitches, and then we are going to increase. So knit the next stitch first through its front loop, and then again through the back loop. So this will increase 1 stitch. So again, knit 2 and knit front and back, and we'll just continue like this until we have 3 stitches or less on our needles, and just knit to the end. Then I will just turn it again around and work up purl side, wrong side row, and the same thing as we did for the triangles in the beginning. I will slip the first stitch with my yarn in front, and this will create a nice edge stitch for the frill, and then just purl everything until 1 stitch remains, and then we'll just slip that one with the yarn in front as well. And after that I will continue in stockinette stitch. So on the right side I will knit everything, and on the wrong side I will purl everything and slip the first and last stitch, and I will continue alternating these 2 rows until the frill is about 10 centimeters or 4 inches. It's the desired length of the frill. So if you want to make it longer or shorter, you can just make it longer or shorter the way you want it. And of course you can always try it on to see how it looks, and if you want to add length or shorten it, especially if you made the body shorter, then make the frill also a bit shorter. The bottom of the frill should hit the edge of the hem, so it should be the same length from this corner to the bottom. And then we will just bind off everything very loosely, and try to do it very loosely because that will help the frill to set in place. My frill is now finished, and all I have to do is to bind off stitches, and we'll do it the same way as we did for the hem. So I will just start here, knit the first stitch and then the second one, and pull this stitch over, and again knit 1 and pull it off the needle, and try to bind off as loosely as possible. So you can try to loosen this stitch here and not pull it tight, so it can be much looser than you would normally knit. So keep everything loose, and this will help with the curling of the frill, because this one has a raw stockinette stitch edge. So just do this until the end of the row, and then for the last stitch pull it out and cut the yarn so you can weave in the last ends. And after that it's time to block everything. I don't usually pin anything down except if it's a lace shawl and I really want the lace to open. What I do, I usually put it under water and let it soak for about half an hour or until it's completely wet, and then I put it between a clean towel and roll it like a burrito and press out all extra water and just then lay it out flat to dry on an even surface and try to use my hands to even it out and just leave it there. So that's what I usually do for my knits. And after that, it's ready to be used. And here we have it. It's all done and finished, and I have gently blocked it, and super happy how it turned out. I think every time you change the color of a knit, it makes it look completely different. So this is the first one that I made in the orange linen yarn, and this has a slightly more sheen to it because of the silk content, and it looks really sophisticated and classy. I think I just said to my husband that this is something that I could actually wear to a wedding, maybe paired with heels and a little like a glittery clutch or something like that. And here you can see how it looks like on me. I hope you have enjoyed watching this tutorial, and if you like my videos and my channel, please remember to subscribe to my channel so you will always get a notification when I put out a new video. And also in the comments below you can tell me if you found this helpful, or if there's another pattern that you would like me to make a similar tutorial to, or if I forgot to say something, if there's something that you would like me to show more closely in my upcoming videos. But I think that's everything. I'm going to go and enjoy my new summer tops, and I hope you will enjoy yours too. See you soon again. Bye!